The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light that orbited the neutral world below. Inside, representatives from 43 different species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from humanoid to completely alien. At the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed the small blue planet called Earth. Isolated and alone in its corner of the galaxy. Ambassador Kira stood at the speaker's platform. Her forearms spread wide in a gesture of authority. Her silver skin gleamed under the chamber lights as she addressed the assembled council. "The matter is simple," she said, her voice translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "The humans have exceeded their permitted expansion zone. They have established 17 colony worlds without authorization. This cannot stand." High Commander Thex rose from his seat, his massive frame covered in dark scales that clicked as he moved. "The Ralgon Confederation supports immediate military action," he announced. "These primitives have been in space for barely 2 centuries. They possess no significant military capability. We have observed their vessels. Cargo ships. Science vessels. Nothing more." His mouth split into what might have been a smile. "They will surrender within days." In the darkness beyond the station, something watched. The Terran vessel Silent Verdict had maintained its position for exactly 3 months, completely invisible to every sensor the council possessed. On the bridge, Captain Daeho Kim sat in his command chair, his face expressionless as he listened to the council's debate through the communication feeds his ship had intercepted. "Captain," said Minji Park from the tactical station, "Earth Command is sending new orders." She looked up, her eyes meeting his. "We're authorized to reveal ourselves." Daeho nodded slowly. "Jingho, open a channel to Earth. Confirm receipt of orders." He stood up, smoothing his uniform. "Minji, prepare to decloak on my command. Let's make it dramatic." Jinho Lee's fingers moved across his console. "Channel open, sir. Admiral Sunho sends his regards. He says, and I quote, 'Give them hell, Daeho.'" Inside the council chamber, the vote was proceeding. One by one, species after species voted in favor of military action against humanity. The tally was overwhelming. 38 in favor, only 5 abstentions, 0 against. Kyra's voice rang out. "The council has decided. The human species will surrender all colony worlds immediately and retreat to their home system or face complete pacification. We will dispatch our message to Earth within the hour." That was when the lights changed. Every sensor in the council chamber screamed warnings simultaneously. Delegates jumped from their seats, some screaming, others reaching for weapons they did not carry. Above the chamber, visible through the transparent dome, a ship materialized from nothing. It was not large by council standards, perhaps half a kilometer in length. But its design was wrong. Angles that should not work. Surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. And most importantly, it had appeared in a position that should have been impossible. No ship could approach the council station undetected. The defense grid alone should have seen it coming from millions of kilometers away. Dex stared upward, his confidence draining from his face. "How?" he whispered. Every communication system in the chamber activated at once. The face that appeared on every screen was human. Young, perhaps by their standards. His expression was calm, almost gentle. But his eyes were cold. "Council members," Captain Daeho Kim said, his words translated perfectly into every language present. "My name is Captain Daeho Kim of the Terran vessel Silent Verdict. I have been observing your deliberations for some time now." He paused, letting that sink in. 3 months, to be precise. "Your security is not as effective as you believe." Kyra found her voice. "This is a violation of council space. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Daeho's expression did not change. I am here to deliver a message from Earth. You have made assumptions about humanity based on incomplete information. You see our cargo vessels and science ships and assume we are weak. You assume we are defenseless. He leaned forward slightly. You are wrong. Impossible. Vex shouted. We have analyzed your capabilities. You have no military fleet. No weapons of significance. You are children playing in the dark. Then let me educate you, Deho said quietly. Humanity has existed in galactic space for 50 years. In that time, we have watched how you wage war. Honor duels. Scheduled battles. Rules of engagement. You treat warfare as a game with winners and losers. His voice hardened. We do not. On Earth, we have waged total war for our entire history. We know what real warfare looks like. And we have spent 50 years preparing for the day you would underestimate us. The council chamber fell silent. Delegates looked at each other, uncertainty spreading through the room like a disease. I am authorized, Deho continued, to give you one opportunity to reconsider your vote. Withdraw your ultimatum. Leave humanity alone. This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is a simple statement of fact. If you choose war with humanity, you will regret it. Kira's forearms trembled with rage. You dare threaten the council? You are one ship. We have thousands. Millions. Deho's cold smile never reached his eyes. Call the vote again, Ambassador. I will wait. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Species that had never agreed on anything suddenly found unity in their outrage. How dare these primitives threaten the council? How dare they spy on sacred deliberations? The vote was called again, and this time it was unanimous. 43 species voted for war. Deho watched it happen, his expression never changing. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke one last time. You were given a choice, he said softly. What comes next is the extinction you have chosen. May your gods have mercy on you, because humanity will not. The transmission ended. The silent verdict vanished from sensors once more, leaving the council chamber in shocked silence. In the darkness of space, Deho turned to his crew. Jinho, send the message to Earth. Tell them the council chose war. He sat back in his command chair. Minji, calculate firing solutions for the Ralgon Homeworld Defense Network. We begin 6 hours. The galaxy had made its choice. Now it would learn what humanity had always known. War is not a game. War is extinction, wearing the face of necessity. Admiral Sunho Choi stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Europa, Jupiter's ice moon. The facility had been built 50 years ago, carved into the ice and rock, completely invisible to any scan from above. It was one of 17 such facilities scattered throughout the solar system and beyond. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 3,000 warships, each one emerging from hiding places across council space. Status report, Sunho said calmly, his hands clasped behind his back. Raina Song, the intelligence director, stepped forward. Her tablet glowed with incoming data. All vessels have received the activation codes. The Council's military forces are mobilizing, but they are still operating under standard protocols. They expect us to meet them in open battle. She looked up. They have no idea what is about to happen. Yuna Kang, the military historian, stood beside a large display showing Earth's bloody history. Images of ancient battles, world wars, nuclear explosions flickered across the screen. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Granted. Do they truly understand what they have started? Yuna asked. The Council species, they evolved on peaceful worlds. Their wars are ritualistic. They have rules. When we made first contact 50 years ago, I studied their entire military history. In 10,000 years of galactic warfare, total casualties number less than 2 billion across all species combined. Sunho nodded slowly. And humanity? In our Second World War alone, we lost over 70 million people in 6 years. On one planet. Yuna's voice was quiet. We have fought total wars for resources, for ideologies, for survival. We have bombed our own cities. We have created weapons designed specifically to kill as many people as possible. We are not like them, Admiral. No, Senho agreed. We are not. He turned to face his staff. 50 years ago, when we met the Council, we were welcomed as primitive but peaceful. They showed us their technology, their culture, their ways of war, and we smiled and nodded and thanked them for their generosity. His eyes hardened. And then we went home and built weapons they cannot imagine. Hyan Bei, the chief engineer, pulled up schematics on another display. The planet crackers are fully operational. 16 devices positioned near Council core worlds. Each one capable of destabilizing a planet's core and tearing it apart within hours. His voice held no pride, only grim necessity. The star poisoners are ready. We can inject elements into a star's fusion cycle that will cause it to expand or collapse within years instead of billions of years. The AI swarms? Sunho asked. Deployed and dormant in 43 systems, Rena answered. Once activated, they will replicate using available materials. Each swarm can consume an entire asteroid belt to create more of themselves. They will target infrastructure, not populations. But the effect will be the same. Civilization collapse. Sunho walked to the window overlooking the ice caverns below. Thousands of personnel worked at stations, coordinating the largest military operation humanity had ever attempted. The Council thinks we are like them. They think we will issue challenges, agree to battle conditions, fight honorably. He turned back to his staff. Yuna, tell them the doctrine. Yuna straightened. The human doctrine of total warfare, established after first contact. Point 1. Humanity does not seek fair fights. We seek absolute victory at any cost. Point 2. Humanity does not distinguish between military and strategic targets. Everything that supports an enemy war effort is valid for destruction. Point 3. Humanity does not accept surrender until the enemy is incapable of future threat. Point 4. If humanity faces extinction, we will ensure we are not the only species to die. The room fell silent. These were the rules that governed Earth's military for half a century. Rules kept secret from the Council. Rules that would now be demonstrated. Begin the operation, Sunho ordered. All ships, execute Protocol Midnight. No warnings, no mercy. Show them what human warfare really means. Across the galaxy, human ships decloaked simultaneously. In the Ralgon home system, 30 warships appeared from the darkness and opened fire on the orbital defense platforms. There were no challenges issued, no time given to evacuate. The platforms, designed to withstand conventional weapons, simply ceased to exist under the barrage of relativistic projectiles and fusion warheads. High Commander Thex watched from his flagship as his impregnable defenses turned to expanding clouds of debris. Return fire, he screamed. Destroy them. But the human ships did not stay still. They moved in patterns the Ralgon computers could not predict, accelerating and decelerating in ways that should have killed their crews with the forces involved. Later, the Council would learn about human inertial dampening technology, another secret kept hidden. But for now, Thex could only watch as his fleet fired at positions the humans had already left. 20-7 minutes into the battle, half of the Ralgon orbital infrastructure was gone. At 34 minutes, the humans stopped firing and vanished back into the darkness. They left behind a message buoy, broadcasting in clear language. This was a demonstration. Withdraw your forces from human space, or every Ralgon world will receive the same treatment. You have 6 hours to comply. Dax stared at the ruins of his defenses. 6 hours. Not 6 days for negotiation. Not 6 weeks for diplomacy. 6 hours. This was not how war was conducted. This was not civilized. This was human. On Europa, Sunho watched the reports flowing in. 37 simultaneous strikes across council space. Military installations, shipyards, communication hubs, all destroyed with brutal efficiency. Casualties were actually minimal. The humans had targeted infrastructure, not populations. But the message was clear. Sir, Rena said, we are receiving surrender requests from 14 minor species. They are asking for terms. Denied, Sunho said flatly. They voted for war. Now they will experience it. Tell them we will accept nothing. Less than complete withdrawal from all disputed territories and full reparations for the cost of our military deployment. Yuna looked troubled. Admiral, some of these species had no choice. They were intimidated by the larger empires. Are we truly going to punish them? Sunho met her eyes. If we show mercy now, the council will think we are weak. They will think this is negotiable. It is not. He gestured to the displays. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have prepared for 50 years was built for this moment. The council believed we were defenseless children. Now, they will learn that the most dangerous children are the ones who grew up fighting. Another alert appeared on the screens. The Velan Empire, the council's largest military power, was mobilizing its full fleet. 3 million warships, the pride of galactic civilization, moving toward human space. Sunho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Ian, activate the echo swarms in the Velan industrial sectors. Rena, deploy our deep strike teams. Let them come with their 3 million ships. When they arrive, they will find their home worlds have no food, no power, no infrastructure to support them. He turned to his staff. Humanity survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own mistakes. We learned one lesson above all others. Survive at any cost, win at any price, and never, ever give an enemy a second chance to destroy you. The Dean. War had only just begun, and already the galaxy was lining. Humanity did not fight like the Council. Humanity fought to win. Captain Minho Song gripped the armrests of his command chair as the strike carrier, enduring wrath, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Around his ship, 200 smaller vessels materialized in perfect formation. They had emerged deep inside Tanith Coalition space, a region the Council believed to be completely secure. Taiyang, launch the Echo Swarms, Minho ordered. Target their manufacturing centers and mining operations. I want their industrial capacity reduced to 0 within 72 hours. Taiyang Shin's fingers danced across his console. Swarms away, Captain. Initial replication cycle beginning now. On his screen, thousands of small objects scattered from the enduring wrath, each no larger than a human fist. They would find asteroids, strip them for materials, and build more of themselves. In 3 days, there would be millions. In a week, billions. Sir, receiving distress calls from Tanith mining stations, reported the communications officer. They are requesting military assistance. Jam their signals, Minho said coldly. I do not want their fleet knowing what is happening until it is too late. Ji-Wan Han sat in the cockpit of her experimental fighter, waiting in the enduring wrath's launch bay. Her hands rested steady on the controls, despite her racing heart. The fighter was small, barely large enough for her and the ship's AI core, but it could do something no Council ship had ever imagined possible. Viper Lead, you are cleared for launch, came the order from the bridge. Target package is the Tanith defense grid. Make it quick. Acknowledged, Jiwan replied. She fired her engines and shot from the bay, followed by 11 other fighters in her squadron. Vipers, form up on me. Engage pulse drives on my mark. The pulse drive was humanity's darkest secret, a technology that let ships achieve 0.75 light speed in normal space for brief periods. The Council's ships could not track anything moving that fast, could not target it, could not defend against it. Mark, Jiwan said, calmly. The universe blurred. For exactly 7 seconds, her fighter moved at 75% the speed of light. When she decelerated, she was already past the 10th defense platforms, each one trailing expanding debris clouds. She had fired simple tungsten rods during her pass. At that velocity, they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The 10th defenders never saw what killed them. Viper lead to enduring wrath, Jiwan reported. Defense grid is neutralized. Beginning attack run on orbital shipyards. On the surface of 10th Prime, Council of Re watched the sky light up with explosions. Her people were dying up there. Her civilization's proud fleet was being torn apart by an enemy that fought without honor, without mercy, without even the decency to face them in proper battle. Get me a channel to Earth, she screamed at her aides. I do not care how you do it. Find me someone who will negotiate. But Earth was not interested in negotiations. The human fleets had spread across Council space like a disease, targeting not just military assets but the economic foundations of galactic civilization. Trade routes were destroyed. Banking centers were hacked and corrupted. Cultural heritage sites were not touched, but everything around them was leveled, leaving them as monuments in WSTELANDS. High Commander Dex had watched 3 of his colony worlds fall in the first week. Now he sat in his command chamber, staring at reports he could barely comprehend. The humans were not trying to conquer territory. They were not trying to capture resources. They were systematically destroying the Council's ability to function as a civilization. Someone explain this to me, Dex demanded, his voice hoarse. What do they want? What are they trying to achieve? His intelligence officer, a young Ralgon named Vec, stepped forward. Sir, we have analyzed human military communications. They are not encrypted. They want us to understand. He brought up a recording of a human officer speaking to his crew. The translation is exact. The human commander said, "We are not here to win territory. We are here to ensure the Council can never threaten us again. If that requires burning down galactic civilization, then we will bring the matches." Vex felt something he had never experienced before. True, primal fear. They are insane. No, sir, Vec replied quietly. They are terrifyingly sane. We reviewed their history. They have done this before. On their own world. To themselves. This is how humans wage war. The Council convened an emergency session, but it was chaos. Species blamed each other. Some demanded total war. Others begged for peace. Ambassador Kira tried to maintain order, but her authority had shattered along with the Council's fleets. We must surrender. Vree shouted. Every hour we continue this war, another world falls. Another billion of our people lose everything. Surrender to primitives? Roared another delegate. Never. We have the numbers. We have the industrial capacity. We simply need to adapt to their tactics. But adaptation took time, and time was a luxury the Council no longer had. The human fleets moved faster than Council intelligence could track. They struck and vanished. They did not hold territory, which meant there was nothing to counterattack. And their weapons, their terrible weapons, continued to reveal themselves. On the 3rd day of the 2nd week, a human device activated near the Ralgon core worlds. It was small, no larger than a shuttle. But when it detonated, it sent a cascade of exotic particles into the system star. Within hours, the star began to expand. Slowly, but measurably. Scientists across the galaxy watched in horror. The star would not go supernova. Not yet. But in 3 to 5 years, it would swell large enough to consume the inner planets. Billions would need to be evacuated. And the humans had planted devices near 40 council stars. The message was clear. Surrender, or watch your home stars die. Dex finally broke. He sent an unencrypted message directly to Captain Daeho Kim, who had become the face of human military operations. Please, Dex said, his pride crumbling. We surrender. Name your terms. We will pay any price. Just stop this. Daeho's response was broadcast to every council world. You do not get to surrender, High Commander. You chose extinction when you voted for war. Now you will experience what it means to face a species that views warfare as survival, not sport. Councilor Vree managed to acquire a fast ship and flee her dying world. She set course for Earth, hoping to beg in person. Hoping that somewhere in humanity there was mercy. Captain Minho watched her ship leave on his sensors. Should we intercept? His tactical officer asked. No, Minho said. Let her go. Let her see Earth. Let her understand what she tried to destroy. He turned back to the view screen, where another council shipyard burned, and let her carry the message back. This is not war. This is education. We are teaching the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. In the darkness between stars, thousands of human ships continued their work, methodical, efficient, merciless. The Council had believed. Humanity was weak because they had never seen human warships. They had not understood that humanity had simply chosen not to show them God. Now the lesson was being written in fire and ash across the galaxy. And the Council was learning that the most dangerous predator is the one that learned to hunt while hunting itself. The war was only 2 weeks old. 3 major empires had already collapsed, and humanity showed no signs of stopping. Senna Lim gripped the controls of her freighter as she broadcast her message across every channel she could access. Her ship, the Gentle Dawn, was not a warship. It carried no weapons, just medical supplies, food, and a crew of volunteers who had decided they could not stand by and watch the galaxy burn. This is Captain Senna Lim of the civilian vessel Gentle Dawn, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. I am speaking to anyone who will listen. I am human, and I am ashamed of what my species is doing. The Council was wrong to threaten us. But this total destruction, this is not justice. This is genocide. Her message reached Earth within minutes. Within an hour, it had been shared across human networks. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a hero. Most simply wrestled with the same question she had asked. When does defense become murder? General Junho Park stood in the ruins of what had been a Tanith city. His ground forces had arrived after the orbital bombardment, expecting to secure military facilities. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by refugees, families with children, elderly who could not flee, people who had never voted for war, who had never threatened humanity, who were simply trying to survive. Sir, one of his soldiers said, a young woman named Yunji. What are our orders? The civilians, they are asking for help. Junho looked at the scared faces around him. They looked different from humans. Strange skin colors, different numbers of limbs. But the fear in their eyes was universal. Set up medical stations, he ordered. Get the field kitchens running. We are soldiers, not monsters. Sir, Admiral Sunho's orders were clear. No aid to council populations. I do not care what the Admiral said, Junho snapped. I will not watch children starve because their leaders made a stupid choice. He activated his communication device. This is General Junho Park to Earth Command. I am requesting immediate humanitarian supplies for 10th Prime. I have approximately 40,000 refugees in need of medical care and food. The response was ice cold. Request denied, General. You are to complete your mission and withdraw. Junho looked at Yoonji, at his other soldiers, at the desperate civilians. He made a choice. Then I am disobeying orders. Court-martial me if you want. But I will not abandon these people. Hannah Yu watched it all through her camera. She was a war journalist, embedded with the human fleet to document the campaign. She had filmed the battles, the victories, the terrible efficiency of human warfare. But now she filmed something else. The cost. Her latest report showed Tanith children, their strange alien features contorted in hunger and fear. It showed destroyed cities where no military targets had existed. It showed the ecological collapse of worlds where human AI swarms had consumed so much material that the planet's natural cycles were breaking down. The council called us primitive, Hana said in her broadcast. They threatened our existence. But in our response, we have become the very thing we feared. We have become the galaxy's destroyers. Our reports reached Earth and spread like wildfire. Protests erupted in cities across the home world. Millions of humans took to the streets, demanding the government end the campaign. But millions more counter-protested, arguing that humanity had to be strong, had to finish what the council started. The species was divided. Deep beneath Europa, Admiral Sunho watched the protests on his screens. Beside him, Yuna Kang stood silent. She had been present for every decision, every order. Now she looked troubled. Admiral, she said quietly, I need to say something. Speak. When I briefed you on the human doctrine, I believed it was necessary. I believed the council would destroy us if we showed weakness. She paused. I still believe that. But I also believe we have crossed a line. We are not defending ourselves anymore. We are punishing them. And punishment is turning into extermination. Sunho did not look at her. The council voted unanimously for our extinction. Every single species agreed we should be eliminated. Why should I show them mercy they would never have shown us? Because we are better than them, Yuna replied. That is what makes us human. Not our weapons. Not our tactics. Our ability to choose mercy even when vengeance is easier. In her cell aboard a human prison ship, Ambassador Kira sat in darkness. She had been captured during a raid on a council diplomatic station. Her forearms were bound, not cruelly, but securely. She had expected torture, interrogation. Instead, she had been given food, water, and silence. The door opened. Captain Daeho Kim entered, carrying 2 cups of what appeared to be tea. He set one in front of her and sat down across the small table. I do not want your poison, Kyra said. It is just tea, Daeho replied. Earl Grey, a human drink. I thought you might appreciate something warm. They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Kyra spoke. Why are you here, Captain? To ask you a question, Daeho said. When you voted to destroy humanity, did you believe we would accept it peacefully? I believed you had no choice, Kyra admitted. We had the numbers, the technology, the experience. But you did not have the will, Daeho said softly. Your species, all council species, you evolved on kind worlds. Plenty of food, mild climates. You developed civilization without the constant threat of extinction. Your wars were competitions, not struggles for survival. He sipped his tea. Humanity evolved on a death world. Ice ages, predators, diseases, scarcity. We learned to fight for every meal, every resource, every day of life. That made us different. It made you monsters, Kira whispered. Perhaps, Daeho acknowledged. But you created these monsters. When you threatened our children, our future, our very existence. You forced us to show you what we really are." He leaned forward. "I want you to understand something, Ambassador. Every weapon we are using, every terrible device, we built them knowing we might have to use them on ourselves. If Earth had become a threat to our colony worlds, we would have turned these weapons on our own home. That is how seriously we take survival." Kyra stared at him. "You are insane." "No, we are realistic. And now you are learning what happens when a realistic species feels threatened." On Earth, the government was in chaos. President Doyen Kim sat in his office, surrounded by advisors all shouting different opinions. Some demanded the war continue until the council was completely broken. Others begged for an immediate ceasefire. The planet was splitting apart. "We need to vote," Doyen finally said. "Let the people decide. Do we continue this war until the council can never threaten us again? Or do we stop now and risk they might rebuild and return?" His chief advisor, a woman named Sora, shook her head. "Sir, you cannot put this to a popular vote. The people are too emotional, too divided." "Then what would you have me do?" Doyen asked. "Decide alone? That makes me a dictator, not a president." The vote was scheduled for 1 week. In that time, both sides campaigned furiously. Senna continued broadcasting her humanitarian missions. Junho's disobedience inspired other military units to begin helping refugees. But the military leadership, led by Admiral Sunho, argued that any mercy now would be seen as weakness. The galaxy held its breath. On one side, complete annihilation. On the other, uncertain peace. And somewhere in between, the question that would define humanity's future. Were they the galaxy's monsters? Or were they something more? The vote on Earth was the closest in human history. 50.2% voted for mercy. 49.8% voted to continue until the council was completely destroyed. The margin was so slim that by law, it triggered a mandatory review period. President Doyen Kim had 72 hours to make the final decision. He spent those hours doing something unexpected. He visited schools and listened to children talk about the war. He walked through hospitals where wounded soldiers recovered and asked them what they fought for. He stood in protests on both sides and heard the anger, the fear, the hope, and the despair. On the third day, he made his choice. The broadcast went out to every human vessel, every colony, and every corner of council space. President Doyen Kim sat at his desk, his face showing the weight of his decision. "My fellow humans," he began, "and to the council species listening, I have a confession to make. When Captain Daeho Kim decloaked the silent verdict above the council chamber, his ship carried enough firepower to destroy the entire station in seconds. He could have ended the council leadership with a single command." In her cell, Ambassador Kyra felt her heart stop. On his ship, Daeho closed his eyes. He had wondered if this secret would ever be revealed. "He did not fire," Doyen continued. "Not because he lacked authorization, not because he hesitated, but because humanity wanted to give the council one final chance to choose peace. When they voted for war anyway, when they chose unanimously to exterminate us, we could have killed them all right then. We chose not to." Across the galaxy, council members who had survived the war listened in shock. "That choice," Doyen said, "was humanity's real test for the council. We showed you mercy when you deserved none, and you threw it away. You believed our mercy was weakness. You thought our restraint was fear. You were wrong on both counts." He stood up, his hands gripping the podium. "The war ends now. Not because we cannot win. We can. We have already won. The council's military is shattered. Your economic systems are in ruins. Your ability to threaten anyone, including us, is gone. We end the war because continuing it serves no purpose except revenge. And humanity is better than that. In the military command center, Admiral Sung-ho listened with his jaw clenched. Yuna Kang stood beside him, tears running down her face. But, Do-young continued, his voice hardening, mercy does not mean forgetting. It does not mean trusting. It means giving you a chance to survive and learn from your mistakes. Therefore, I am presenting the Council with the Extinction Treaty. A document appeared on screens across the galaxy. It was simple, brutal, and non-negotiable. Every Council species will sign this treaty, Do-young stated. The terms are as follows. 1. All Council species immediately withdraw from any territory humanity claims. 2. The Council will pay reparations to cover the full cost of our military deployment. 3. Any future aggression toward humanity or any act of war between Council species will be considered a violation of this treaty. 4. If the treaty is violated, humanity will respond with immediate and total military action. No warnings. No negotiations. Just extinction. He paused, letting it sink in. You will live. Your children will live. Your civilizations will rebuild. But you will never feel safe again. Every moment of every day, you will know that humanity is watching from the darkness. And if you ever threaten us or each other again, we will finish what you started. Council of Re, who had finally reached Earth, stood in the visitor's center and wept. She had come to beg for mercy. Now she understood. This was mercy. Terrible, frightening mercy. The choice is yours, Do-young concluded. Sign the treaty and live in fear, or refuse and face complete extermination. You have 24 hours to decide. The response came in less than 12. Every surviving Council species signed the treaty. They had no choice. The alternative was death. Captain Daeho stood on the bridge of the silent verdict as the withdrawal order came through. All ships, he transmitted to the human fleet, return to designated positions in dark space. Resume stealth protocols. The war is over. Minji Park looked at him. Did we win, sir? Daeho considered the question. We survived. That is all that matters. The human fleet vanished from Council space as quickly as it had appeared. Thousands of warships simply disappeared, returning to secret bases in asteroid fields, in deep space, in dimensions the Council did not know existed. It was as if they had never been there, except for the scars. General Junho Park supervised the evacuation of his humanitarian camps. The Tanith refugees he had saved thanked him with gifts, small tokens of appreciation. A carved stone, a woven cloth, things that had no tactical value but meant everything to people trying to rebuild. Will you come back? A young Tanith child asked him through a translator. Junho knelt down. I hope I never have to, he said gently. But if someone threatens you, if someone starts a war, yes, we will come back. Not to hurt you, but to stop them. Senna Lim's Gentle Dawn continued its humanitarian work. Now officially sanctioned by Earth, she became the face of human mercy, showing the galaxy that humanity was more than just its weapons. Hana Yu's documentary won awards across human space. It was required viewing in schools, a reminder of what war really cost. Ambassador Kyra was released and returned to what remained of the Council. She was given a new position, liaison to humanity. Her job was to ensure the treaty was followed. She accepted, knowing she would spend the rest of her life making sure her people never forgot the lesson they had learned. 100 years passed. The galaxy changed. Trade routes flourished under human protection. Wars between Council species dropped to zero. Not because of love or understanding, but because of fear. Every species knew that humanity was watching. Every leader understood that conflict meant facing the monsters in the dark. The Council built a monument on Axis Prime, It showed the silent verdict decloaking above the council chamber. Below it, an inscription in every galactic language. They gave us one warning. We chose extinction. They gave us terror instead. We call it mercy. A new species entered galactic space, young and aggressive like humanity had once been. They made demands, threatened military action if their requirements were not met. The council response was simple. They showed the newcomers footage of the 34-day war. Every battle, every destroyed world, every terrible weapon humanity had demonstrated. And then they showed them Earth, that small blue planet, quiet and peaceful. This is humanity, the council representatives explained. They do not involve themselves in galactic politics. They do not trade much. They do not attend our meetings. They simply watch. And if you threaten anyone, if you start a war, they will come for you. Not to conquer you, not to negotiate, but to ensure you can never threaten anyone again. The new species immediately requested a peaceful, humble introduction to humanity. They were welcomed warmly on Earth. In the Museum of Military History, the silent verdict sat in honored retirement. School children visited it, learning about the war that defined humanity's place in the galaxy. They learned about Captain Daeho Kim, who gave the council a chance they did not deserve. They learned about Admiral Sunho Choi, who built the weapons that saved humanity. They learned about General Junho Park, who showed that strength and compassion were not opposites. And they learned the most important lesson of all, that the deadliest weapon is not the one that destroys, but the one that never has to be used. In the darkness of space, human ships still patrolled, still watched, still waited. The galaxy had tested humanity and learned that some prey, when cornered, becomes the predator. The council had chosen extinction. Humanity had given them fear instead. And in that fear, the galaxy found peace. Captain Daeho Kim, now an old man, sat in his garden on Earth and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the silent verdict's sister ships maintained their watch, protecting not just humanity, but the entire galaxy from itself. A young reporter came to interview him, asking the question everyone still wondered. "Sir, do you regret it? The war? The destruction?" Daeho thought for a long moment. "I regret that it was necessary," he finally said. "I regret that the council forced our hand. But I do not regret our response. We showed the galaxy who we truly are. And now, because of that terrible knowledge, they are safer than they have ever been. But they fear us." "Yes," Daeho agreed. "They fear us. And that fear has saved billions of lives that would have been lost in council wars. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is to be so terrifying that no one dares to fight." He looked back at the stars, at the peaceful galaxy humanity had created through overwhelming force. "We gave them a choice," he said softly. "They chose wrong. We chose mercy. History will decide which choice was wiser. But in the century since the war, the galaxy had already decided. Peace through terror was still peace. And humanity, the species that had shown the galaxy the true face of war, had become its greatest protector. Not through love, through fear. And that perhaps was enough.